Welcome to Caching Waves. This is an Eliott Wave update for Jasmy. I've gotten a lot of requests for this one. Now, one thing I have to discuss here is this area right at the low. So it's very difficult because this can be obviously an impulse to the upside, though it doesn't hit ideal guidelines, and obviously goes completely against guidelines with how deep we came. And then this area seems to be truncated either way I count it. So that's going to come into play. I'll discuss that at the end of the video, what that could mean. But this is either our 1-2, we got a truncation here, or a triangle made a new low here. And we had an insanely deep correction for our wave 2. You can see it didn't invalidate it, but came extremely close. Or this is a truncated ending diagonal, and our low starts here for the new trend. So we have to kind of keep those in mind for future targets. It's kind of frustrating. All this had to do was just make one more low below this low, and there would have been a lot of clarity. But the best thing I can do now is consider this a 1-2, or this is an A-B in the bearish scenario, or a truncation, and this is our low in the market. So just keep that in mind moving forward. This is what happens sometimes in the markets. You have to deal with those uncertainties. So for purposes of the bullish scenario, we're starting our low from over here. All right, and it made a very nice impulse, almost ideal. So we had a leading diagonal for our wave 1 off our 2. You can see we came right where we expected, between the 50 and the 618 for our wave 2. Got a nice clean 5-wave impulse for our third being the strongest, exactly what we look for. We had a sharp correction for our wave 2, expect a sideways consolidation for our wave 4, which we got as a double zigzag, and then came up for our 5th. Now if you were trading this in real time, this is just a little tip here, you would be targeting the 1.618 extension, right there, which we hit to the T. But if you were also tracking the waves at the same time, you would see 3 waves up. No, we need one more push to the upside. So that's how you can use combination of guidelines, the 1.618, and the wave count at the same time. So you can see that played out pretty much perfect. If we take a look at our indicators, most volume in the third of the third as expected. These are repeatable, so use these as much as you can. You can see we got higher high for our third, divergence there between our third and a 5th of our third, and then ideally we want divergence between our larger 3rd and 5th, which we got slightly. So it was a pretty strong 5th wave in general, but it did make divergence. It's not letting me pull it up, but you can see 3rd wave peak, 5th wave divergence, and declining volume. So all in all, pretty much an ideal impulse. One thing I did notice is the pitchfork was not working properly. Originally, excuse me. Originally, obviously the pivots were over here. It wasn't working properly. Sometimes that'll happen. I just pull it to which one it's responding to the most, which was the beginning of the wave 1 here, the 1 of the 1. And I just use this as early indication for a correction being complete when we start drifting out the side of it and I have a completed pattern, as clearly I do. One more thing for targeting wave 5, you take the length of wave 1, extend it off the wave 4. This is why I say it's almost ideal, and we target the 1-to-1. So very nice. And in this situation, you could also have been counting 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'll show you that. That's most likely a flat there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Sorry, we're getting micro time frames here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. So if you're counting that very closely, you could have gotten as close to the top as possible, right? All right, so it's established that's most likely a 5-wave impulse. So where do we go from here? All right, so zooming out, what we look for is similar to this smaller wave 2, right? We're looking for a 3-wave move between the 382 and the 618. Now, if we are extremely bullish, we want to hold within the previous 4th wave. So we'll see if we get support in that area, and we can figure that out same way we did here. We need to follow the patterns filling out, look for the most likely pivots, and use our Fibonacci tools to find a completed count at the end of this C. So unfortunately, it looks like we're in the middle of a B wave and still needs quite a bit of time for this correction, but there are lots of trade options available here. B waves can become very high. I've talked to you many times, the best time to trade a B wave is at the low end, the beginning of it, or the top end of it, and play the C wave. It's very difficult to trade right when you're in the middle. You're going to get terrible risk rewards and probably eaten up by 3-wave, sideways aggressive patterns. B waves can be multiple different patterns connected together, as well as like WXYs that are very erratic, very erratic. Look at something like this, right? Imagine trying to make a trade short or long right here, right in the middle of an X wave or a B wave. Very difficult to trade. Okay, so we're going to do a deep dive in this area. So let's get this. I was looking at this for hours this morning. Let's go down to the hourly. Remember, we're working on our A wave. This one's been interesting too. So I'm on the hourly, that's our high of wave 5. I have this as a wave, 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get our B wave as a flat and 5 down for our C, ABC. We then had a WXY as a expanded flat. So that's our first wave down as a WX, and working on a 3-wave move down for our Y for our A wave. So from the top of this Y, I have a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th wave got a little bit extended here. After that, we have a triangle for our B wave. That's our A, B, C, D, E. There's the thrust we wanted at the end of our triangle, and looking for 5 waves to complete our C. 1, 2. We have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, and then our 4th and our 5th. So it looks like our A wave is complete. As you can see, double zigzag. I was considering the fact that this could be a diagonal. This is where, if we need one more low, I would end up relabeling this. And I don't like the look of it, but it does count. So the issue is, I just want to show you this. This looks like 5 waves to me, right? So this can be a 5 wave or a double zigzag, but this to me can only be a 5 wave looking at it. It's very impulsive. So the only way to count that would be, this would be a wave 1 in a diagonal. This would be a wave 3 because of this is 5. Same with this. This has its own problems. So I'm pretty much throwing this out the window, and then this would have to be a zigzag as well. This one would have to be a combination. So it doesn't look the greatest in that scenario. That's why I more think our bottom is in currently, at least in the short term. And the way that would look is like an expanded diagonal like this. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is our B, and this is our C. But yeah, just different ways you can consider it depending what happens. But right now I think I'm on the right track here, even based on the action we just had. Looks pretty good. Obviously an extended second zigzag, but everything looks good to me here. One alternative way, if this does end up being a three wave, because that whole situation depends on this wave here, is this can just be simplified as a 5-wave move. And this would be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as an A wave, right? That can also be counted, but this would have to be a 3-wave somehow. And this would be our diagonal, even though it doesn't have the right shape, it would be more as a channel diagonal. But either way, we come to a relatively the same bottom, right? Depending on what the pattern is. You can see I have my pitchfork here. It is working well and respecting it. So looks good to me on here. Now we're going to focus in down on this area. So consider the fact that we have a larger A wave in, looking for a B wave to the upside, and keep in mind this is a 3-wave move. So in 3-wave moves, if we get a B wave rather than an X and we make a flat, we need to hit at least the 90% retracement of this A wave, which is up here at 4.107 cents. If we don't reach that, it's not a ABC flat. That's where we get 5-wave move after, targeting the 1-to-1 of this wave here. So that is my expectation currently, based on the wave count we get to at least 4.107 cents if this is an ABC. Now the trouble comes, this is why these B waves are so difficult, is we can also get a WXY, right? WX, and it doesn't have to come to 90%. So we'll have to see what sort of pans out here. And there's also no time limit minimum for an X wave. It can just come up here and make another ABC. It can do that, and then that would just become a WXYXZ, which is a rare correction, but obviously possible. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, right now the most clear option is to make a B wave. We want to come to at least the 90%, or make a new high above the previous high in a running flat scenario, which would be quite bullish if we did do that. Let's go down to the 15-minute off that low. This is what I am looking for. This does look like 5 waves to me, which is a good sign. So we can expect at least another move to the upside. Had the most volume, that's our third of the third. Here's the top of our third. We get divergence between our third of our fifth and our third and the wave 5, which is perfect, exactly what we would expect on the 15-minute. So we have our 5-wave move in as an A wave. This got a little bit complex. We have a diagonal off the high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, expanded flat, WXY, and then 5 waves down in an impulse to complete an ABC. So that's our A wave in the larger trend. Just think of waves within wave. That's a 3-wave move. That was possibly the end of the correction of this A wave. That was possibly the end, but the issue is the reaction over here, right? We got clearly a 3-wave move. If this was the end of the correction, we should have made a 3, 4, 5, right, and kept going. We didn't. So when that happens and you start drifting sideways, you have to consider the fact that, okay, perhaps our correction is not complete. And if that's the case, similar to the larger trend, you'd want to come at least to the 90% of the first A wave. And now this can become a flat, a 3, 3, 5. So what I'm anticipating here is either break the new high or stop from here and get a 5-wave move down, get a partner leg here. This becomes a WXY, and then we can attempt our C wave to the upside. That's what I'm looking for immediately. A drop down and protect this A wave if we make a new high. So from wherever this pivot ends up pivoting from, and we make lower lows from this area, I'll be targeting the 1-to-1 extension of this A wave for our C wave, which if we pivoted from here would be about 2.194 cents. That would be my B wave. So this is all an A, B, and I'd be looking for the 1-to-1 extension of this wave off this B wave to the upside. That's the trade I'm looking for, and I'll wait till this pans out. I'm not shorting from this area, I'm just waiting. The long is the better play. Remember, we're going up to like 4 cents potentially, which is almost 100% move. So there is some good opportunity there. But yeah, there's one other one I'm looking at here, and then I'll put it all together for you guys. And that was the fact that, remember, in B waves, we can get triangles. So keep that in mind. That's one thing I'm considering here. We get them in fourth waves, B waves, or X waves, right? That's the only spot we can get a triangle. So the question is this a triangle? It is completely valid. My point of view, it's a series of threes. And this would be the bottom of our E wave. And we would just move up from here. We would target the 1-to-1 extension of this A wave off the E wave. So in this scenario, we should just make 5 waves up. What just happened here? Whoops. Get rid of that. It disappeared. Oh, no, it didn't. Sorry, it's just off screen. So for that scenario, I'd switch between log and linear and target the closest. 3065. 2936 would be my target in this scenario. For our C wave, put on a channel just to keep an eye on things here. And it looks like we would get there potentially by Friday. So if this is our triangle ABCDE, this would be an ABC, and you can see that if it pans out this way, clearly we would not be in a continuation to the upside. This would all be corrective up to 4 cents. So that's option number 2. And in this scenario, I'm going to keep an eye on this area. What I'll probably end up doing So remember these two scenarios. Or this is either something very corrective. I did have that as a diagonal for a second. It's not a diagonal. So do we get this Y wave up into the B zone, the 1.236, which is at 2.611 and 2.659. And then we get this move to the downside for our A, B, C, and then we continue for our C wave? Or is this the triangle and we just go from here, right? Both options are completely valid. This can turn over anywhere from here. We've already made a new high above the W wave, so it can turn from here, it can turn from here, it can turn from here, anytime now. So my plan is to wait for this. We'll see if we get it. But if this turns into a nice clean 5, it doesn't look like it's quite there yet. We can even go down to the 3 minute and take a look. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we need a little bit more. It's not quite there. I don't see extensions like I normally would in a third, although this could be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to see a lot of overlap down on the 3 minute. So if we get something like this, get a 5 wave, and we consolidate sideways in a very nice ABC pattern, I might consider a long, but I wouldn't give it much room. Probably just past the 618. I usually use the 0.7 or the 6.6. So what I'll do is if I get this move up and then we get a nice ABC, nice sideways channel, 1-to-1 extensions, etc., I might consider a long here as a scalp, just up to that 1-to-1 area where A is going to equal C. Right up here around 293, and that would be a nice little 10-to-1 risk reward. So if I get that and the pattern plays out that way, I will take that long. And I will 100% take the long if we get the B wave down here. Be waiting for that. So that's the way I'm following this market. You can see it's very complicating in this moment. You just got to clear things out and do your Eliott wave and say where are the most important areas to pay attention to. That would be this being a 5 wave move and a nice sideways ABC consolidating at the highs would be ideal. Or if we start rejecting here and this is some sort of complex correction, I was initially calling this an AB and this was making a diagonal, and then we have a zigzag and a zigzag as a WXY, ABC, but we'll have to wait and see if it pans out. But I might be overcomplicating things here. I just want to give you the best knowledge of what I'm looking at the moment right now. And obviously the B wave becomes invalid as soon as we pass the 1.618, but probabilities go way down as soon as we pass that 1.382. Sometimes you get wicks and rejected through that, but past the 1.618, I would mark this as a triangle and we're making that C wave. All right, so let's zoom out and I'm just gonna talk about one more thing here. So our 1-to-1, if this is a triangle, is that 2936 area. And you have to ask yourself, how do we get up to this area then? Well, the way you would do that is correctively. You'd get an ABC, you'd then get a ABC, you'd get another ABC, and we'd have to see how impulsive the second one gets. And we just go from there. But most likely it would look like stair-stepping, similar to this, just to the upside. But there can be a lot of things. We could get triangles in between. We can get expanded flats in between. That's the main reason I suggest trading on the low end and letting it run if you want to get the whole move. Don't try to play the market in these areas because you're just going to get destroyed in B waves. Speaking from experience, you're going to get absolutely destroyed from B waves. If we do get a similar length in time of this B wave, you'd be looking between the 618 and the 1-to-1, just a guideline, not a rule. It can stop at any point, but they usually hold true, and that would take us, you know, July 22nd, the 1-to-1. It would be we're at the end of the month for this B wave, so somewhere in this zone. So we'll see. We'll see how this turns out. But right now, looking bullish. I am interested. All right, guys, so that's it for this one. Keep in mind, this can all fall apart. You can see on linear, it looks pretty nasty. Log scale, it looks pretty good. And how that can fall apart is if this, let me get rid of all this so I can just do a quick free draw here. So remember, we're having issues with this area. Although very extended, it is also possible that this is either the 1, 2, and we're going to be working on a 4th, in which case, if that happens, I would expect this to turn to a running flat, something sideways because of the deepness of this correction, and we just get a 5th wave up. So these are things I'm keeping in mind in the future, that's possible. And this isn't a 1, 2, but a 3, 4. And I would lean that way if we start getting like a running flat, a higher high, and the C wave below. And then this would all turn into the larger cycle, right? So this could all be a 3rd wave. Alternatively, if we turn bearish and the whole market crashes and Bitcoin doesn't recover, I would have to relabel this as that diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we just collapse, right? 3, 4, 5, come up for ABC, and we just collapse to new lows. And if that ends up happening, I would relabel this, because this is such a sketchy spot right here, I would relabel this as a flat or a zigzag, right? I think we came to the 90%. It depends how you count this wave. It can be a 3, 3, 5, or it can be a zigzag as an ABC. I'll give it very extended, so unlikely, but the option is there. That's why this area is so frustrating that we just didn't make a new low. All right, I went pretty long there in the deep dive. If that was helpful, let me know. That's all I'm trying to do. Next time I'll focus just more on the smaller time frames. I've just been asked for this a lot, so I wanted to give all of my thoughts and concerns on it. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.